Here we'll be working Vader, the police canine we're training, and it was a hot day, so we took it pretty easy and light today. So here you see the officer send him to apprehend me. I'm giving him some good little slaps on the side there just to make sure he's not going to jump off the bite. The officer calls him off. When he outs, he automatically downs. I try to escape, and he sends him to apprehend me again. So you notice the control of the dog. Obedience is the key part into this. The dog needs to bite only because he's told. Here he gives him a certain command where the dog goes between my legs, and I listen to the officer's commands. The dog is pretty much being my escort. And here, whenever I try to escape, the dog re-grabs me to stop me from escaping. So this is all about obedience. He tells the dog to out, the dog downs, and now he tells him a command to place his nose in between my legs in the front, and he gives me commands such as back up to the car, back up to him, and then whenever I try to escape, the dog apprehends me. So these drills are primarily to make sure the dog understands that the bite is not out of prey necessarily, but it's out of obedience. So that way, when the dog's biting, he's not completely mindless. He's still waiting for the next command. He's doing this because he's told. So here I wrestle around with the dog a little bit because in real life, when somebody gets bit, they're probably going to fight the dog. So we want to make sure the dog does not escape. So here, I actually sneak up behind him and attack him to see if the dog will actually protect him. So I try to sneak up where the dog didn't see me coming, and whenever I pushed the officer, he actually looked up and saw what was going on, and there was no command. The officer did not give him a command to attack me. The dog did it on its own in protection to the handler. So here you see him again. He goes between my legs. The officer tells me, what to do, and the dog goes and starts escorting. He tells me to raise my arms up, and I raise it, and then I try to escape. The dog apprehends me once again. So we go through these drills. It's fun and it's hot, like I said, so we're taking it really easy. Then the wind starts blowing, so the camera gets a little shaky. I apologize about that, but in this little clip, I'm doing what we call a courage test, where I'm actually running towards the dog. And he sends the dog, I catch the dog, we fight a little bit, I give him some slaps on the side to make sure that he's really playful and that his mind is with me, but he's still listening to the officer. So I freeze, because the officer's giving me commands. He's telling me to stop fighting the dog, to stop, and then whenever I stop and I comply, he releases the dog off of me, and then whenever I re-attack, the dog grabs me again, and he recalls the dog back to him, once again for that control. Here, he puts the dog in a down and greets me. Now, this is a non-aggressive encounter. A lot of the time, people don't attack cops. But notice I'm doing really exaggerated motions because I'm really wanting that dog to break its position and to bite me. But as you can see, I'm swinging my legs and arms around. The dog wants to, but he knows he shouldn't. So he keeps calm and he stays down. And, the officer checks my ID, no warrants or anything, lets me go back on my way, which is a lot of the time how everyday encounters will happen. Nothing happens, he comes and he gets the dog, walks off. So here, I'm actually running away. I tried to guide him to my right leg, but he tricked me and went for my left leg, which is fine. And now I'm fighting the dog a little bit. Officer tells me to stop fighting the dog. I stop fighting the dog. He recalls the dog off me. So notice how the dog is very obedient in this entire thing. And here, he gives the dog a command to bark at me, and this will lead up in further videos of what we call a search and bark or a bark and hold, where I'll actually be hiding and he'll send the dog to find me. When the dog finds me, he'll bark to alert the officer where I'm at, so the officer can come up and apprehend me at that time, or if I try to escape, the dog can apprehend me itself. So that's what we're working here, and I'm telling the officer that I want the dog to really bark and have that rhythmic pattern to his barking, so that's what we're working towards here. So he tells the dog to bark at me. The dog comes in and barks, and he starts to get that rhythm a little bit, and then once he starts to get the rhythm that I want, I reward him with a leg bite. So that's a little view on how we will start building up to the bark and hold, or the search and bark, which is also known as the search and bite, things like that. But so real playful bites, not a lot of pressure on the dog, because this is primarily bite work under obedience. Easily recalls the dog off of me. Here, I'm actually standing between the dog and the handler exactly, and I wanted to see if, whenever I attacked the officer, if the dog would go for the officer, actually go around for me, and actually the dog did. So the dog did exactly what was expected. So he tells the dog to escort me, and he's telling me to back up to the car, and so the dog's watching me, making sure I don't try to flee, and when I flee, the dog apprehends me, which is typical scenarios that police officers see every day. So here I'm actually on the ground. I'm hiding my hands. The officer doesn't know if I have a weapon. He keeps telling me, show me your hands, show me your hands, and I'm not showing my hands. But I'm not being a threat. So he sends the dog in for what we call a passive bite. Because I'm not showing my hands, I could be considered a threat. And so now we're just testing the dog to see if he will actually attack me if I'm not actively being aggressive. So that, once again, bite work under obedience. And same thing here, I'm sitting down, the dog comes at me, and I really give him some good fight. I kick at him, I wrap my legs around him, I start rolling, and to see if he comes off that bite, which he doesn't. I actually tweaked his leg because whenever I was rolling, he actually dove between my legs even more. Whenever I rolled over on his leg. But even with that, he did not release that bite. He stayed on it, and he stayed with me the entire time. So he has really good, perfect obedience with his bite work. And here we just end the session with an easy tug. He gets it, we play, we tug, and that's his reward for the day for doing such a good job. So that's just a look at protection with obedience.